they'd replace the electric guitar with an acoustic guitar, and then they'd upload their next album as country. So if you're an artist who wants to blow and you can't, you kind of make that little shift into country.
Non-apologetic nonsense.
It is 100 degrees out here in the country. Whew. Funny thing, I got a comment the other day asking me if I thought Lil Man J was really country. This is an interesting one. I always like to keep my eye on underground artists, right? Every once in a while, you get to follow one from just a local no one with 100 views to superstardom, right? Like Hobson's a good example of that. Jelly Roll's been my favorite artist since probably 2010. That's probably the biggest exaggeration of an example of watching someone blow. So this Lil Man J guy got put on my radar probably like, I'd say it's been like 5 years ago, 4 years ago or something. I can't remember the song. It was like I'm on my way up. There was a crew of rappers in my circle and one of them had done some work with him. And I remember when I saw him for the first time, and what made me remember him wasn't his skill, it was his affliction, right? I thought it was amazing that he took that negative hand he was dealt and he turned it into a positive, you know. I thought that was great. Do whatever it takes to get noticed, you know, and that's exactly what he did. Now, I never really thought the music was great. I didn't think it was bad. He was you know, we all know what he looks like. You know, he's blown up now with that Sippin' Country song. But he was trying to do gangster rap type stuff. And I never really bought it. And that'll be relevant here in a moment. But he did sort of that, you know, there was that whole wave of like that sort of, I don't mean this in a negative way, but like that whiny hip hop, you know, like mumble rap adjacent, heavily auto-tuned, you know. Like I say, he came on my radar and I'd see him from time to time doing like, I don't know, a cypher. I remember he did some stuff with Kyle Beats in them. Before I answer whether he's country or not, I do like his music. It kind of reminds me, it's in like the same lane or the same vein of like a Shabuzi, right? It's good music, but it's kind of like copy and paste. And what I mean by that is the music doesn't really have any personality, right? Like Lil Man J could have done that Sippin' Country song. Shabuzi could have done it. 100 other artists, it would have been just as good. It's a good song, but there's not much of like him in it, right? Now, putting hip hop and country together is nothing new, right? In the 90s, there was Haystack, and then there was Big Smo or like Georgia Boys or, you know, even Jelly Roll or even kind of like what Yellow Wolf's kind of doing like his own version of that. I can remember something funny. This was years ago, right? I'm at this restaurant in LA with this A&R. He had just left the business, but he was the one, you know, his job was to find artists, and he was the ones who were initially behind Limp Bizkit and not Mushroom Head, Rage Against the Machine. So this guy was always awesome to talk to. Just picking his brain was just fascinating, right? Like I say, he left the industry. He works down, or used to anyways. I've lost touch with him, but he used to work at the college down there in Hollywood. So we got to talking about country and rap crossover, right? He says something that stuck with me ever since then. He said he'd find a lot of time pop artists, like let's say they weren't having the success they thought they should have, or they weren't able to break through. They essentially weren't really good enough, or maybe the space was too crowded at that moment. They'd replace the electric guitar with an acoustic guitar, and then they'd upload their next album as country. So I asked him why, and he said because there's less competition in the country genre. It doesn't take as much talent, as much originality. You know, it's kind of been the same generic topics for a long time. So if you're an artist who wants to blow and you can't, you kind of make that little shift into country. Although we had never seen something so blatant at that point as like Lil Man J, who was this gangster rapper turned all of a sudden, he's never been on the streets and he's now had a whole life in the country. You can tell by his leather vest. So that always stuck with me. Now, his new song, Sippin' Country, I think that's great. Hell, I listen to that when I get up in the morning. What's that line? I can't remember it. He said, I'm a straight shooting shot chaser, something like that. It's funny. I do find it strange though, right? And to answer the question, do I think he's country? The answer is no. He's not a country dude. And I mean, you can take that from a guy right now. I'm recording this on a multi-acre plot in the middle of the country in Southwest Missouri, right? We're in country. We're in like country where people still fly the wrong flag country. You know what I mean? That tells you what I'm trying to tell you. I remember when I saw him do the flip, right? Like I say, he went from the urban kid to all of a sudden dressing like a Clint Eastwood movie from 50 years ago. You know, I've never seen anyone in the country dressed like this kid is right now. He's got the leather vest with no shirt on underneath. He's gotten the bandana, right? So he takes the bandana and he ties it where like it's sideways and it comes down to like that T. I've never seen anybody do that in the country. I've never seen anyone do that, period. If I saw that, I wouldn't think country. I would think there's a gay dude, right? I would just think that's an apparently out gay man, right? And that's not an insult towards him. I'm just saying that in country, whether you're authentic or not, the hardcore country fans are going to pick you apart, right? He's got to get somebody to work on that look. And I did see like I say, I follow the dude. I like him. I did see like a short or a little skit he was doing or something. And he does talk with a twang now, right? He has added the twang to his repertoire. So that means one of two things. It means he always had it and he hit it, or it's not real, right? Oh, before we go further, I do want to compliment him on the mix on Sipping Country. Look, in country music, it's not as dynamic rhyme schemes, let's say. It's almost the same basis as your generic rock music, right? Don't bore us, get to the chorus. So instead of having like a 16-bar verse like a hip-hop song, it might only be a 4-bar verse, and then that leads into a pre-chorus, and then leads you right into the chorus, and then you just kind of repeat. The focus is 100% on the chorus, not of what's in between. I can't remember the exact line, but it's the pre-chorus. The way it comes in with so much power, whoever is behind his mixing, I actually would like to know who mixed that song, because they did a beautiful, like, Joker level mix on the thing, right? That is great. We are seeing so much of this, right? These guys who jump ship, especially after Jelly Roll blew, right? And I think Jelly Roll is like the authentic version of this, right? You know, I first met Jelly Roll 15 years ago, and he was like a country gangster dude. You know what I'm saying? I think his blow up was authentic. Here's a funny Jelly story though. Once Jelly got past the point that he was just regional and it really started to be kind of nationwide, there's a pocket here he can do shows and a pocket here. He started to get radio play in Nashville. I believe it was with Dead Man Walking. It might have been a little bit before that. So they weren't making much, much hayway. Is that even a word? They weren't making much ground on the hip hop charts. So what they did was they re-uploaded that album and they classified it as alternative rock. Now, bear in mind, you can, like, through your services like CD Baby or whoever, when you upload your CD, you get to pick the genre. So they took the same hip hop album, uploaded it as alternative rock, I believe it was, and then they started getting radio play on the alternative rock station, started going higher up on the charts. I guess they saw more success, but I guess it wasn't enough. So the same thing was done again, except this time it went into country. And while Jelly Roll was able to compete, and in my opinion be the best, but he was able to compete in the hip hop and the alternative rock category, he wasn't able to be the top dog. Once they put that country moniker on him, sky's the limit. We all see what he is now, selling out amphitheaters and shit. You know, I've seen the dude before where me and my crew and maybe one other girl, I think she worked there though, were the only people in the show, you know, to see him go from that to that. But once he put the country name on the records, the genre is country, he was the top dog and he started winning the awards, and God bless him, you know, for doing what he could. But we've seen a lot of this switching from your hip hop to country. I think there is a way to do it and there is a way not to do it. I think the way to do it is the way Jelly Roll did it. The way not to do it is the way Lil Man J did it. But like I say, I think his music's great, but man, some country person needs to sit him down. And that's what's crazy. If you watch the Sippin' Country video, it's him in that leather vest, right? And he's got his homies behind him, and they got their pickup trucks, and then they're like throwing lighter fluid, you know what I'm talking about, into the little hobo fire there. Look at his homies. They're like the poster children for Abercrombie and Finch, right? And they're probably the dudes he's known his entire life. Those are probably his closest friends. He's dressed like he's, you know, Halloween costume for Clint Eastwood, and the rest of them dress like they just left the Gap. So that kind of shows you the cracks. You know, I'd say Lil Man J is a lot closer to that, you know, wanting to look like a Gap model guy, you know, him, who he really is, than the Sippin' Country guy. But like I say, I'm all for it. It is a unique paradox, you know. I don't know. I'm from the country. I've seen everything there is, and I ain't never seen a dude look like that. So somebody needs to get him a tailor. Somebody needs to sit his little ass down and tell him if he's going to dress country, maybe come down to Missouri. We'll show him how to do it, right? Until then, I look forward to his next music. I'm always going to think it's weird, but at the same point in time, I'm always going to support it as well. So cheers to you, Lil Man J. I heard you're about to hit 1 million subs. God bless, man. And we wish you all the success in the world, no matter how many times you switch genres, buddy.